Oh, what they think about you.
I like to think that I use genre conventions to their fullest, if nothing else. I think my bedroom being green provided an interesting visual contrast, and a lot of my house is similarly composed of the same colors, so melding that with the orange aesthetic of coming of age movies and not making it look like the fever nightmare of an HGTV executive took some work, and I think it paid off in interesting ways. I really enjoy the idea of motion and how that can be worked into a film without being hard to keep track of. Japanese directors have this thing called ma, right? It's the idea that not every shot is integral to the narrative in a direct sense, but instead brings out the rest of the film. The way it looks, the way it feels. It's about relieving tension in the viewer and really drawing them into the world. They only see flashes of background and direction every 3 seconds, they lose interest, they stop caring. Nobody likes being at 100% tension all the time. They need time to relax. So when you slow it down a bit, when the motion stops for just a second, that's what really wraps the audience into the world. I want to incorporate those ideas into my film. So instead of moving the camera a lot, I got a longer shots with motion inside them, keeping that Japanese style of ma and incorporating it into the uniquely American dynamicness of coming of age films. I'd like to think I made a very gay title sequence. I do. I did. It's not going to be caught by everyone, and I don't think it should. But it's in the way I act, the way I carry myself, the way I am, I guess. All that is sort of acting up my gayness in a way that I feel correctly portrays me. Not every queer person, me. This was a pretty personal project for me, and it was important that my specific brand of being gay, whatever that means, was more present than the preconceptions of my audience. I don't think I'm obnoxious about it, but I think it's noticeable. It was important to be a part of the title sequence because it's a part of me, and these experiences are important to me, and I would never be as presumptuous or as arrogant as to say that this is how it should be. It's not really about a gay character. It's about a character who is gay. I don't want to be invisible, and I don't want to be a token. I just want to be a person, and that was really important to me. Researching for me was pretty easy. I already knew what kind of film I wanted to make, and it limited me to a very small group of production companies. A24 seemed like the obvious choice, with most of Fox being swallowed up by Disney and Paramount being nearly dead. It's not the sort of thing Disney would really take a chance on anyway, and considering their recent prevalence in the industry, I wasn't really playing with a full hand here to begin with. My target audience is probably like, art house people, to be honest. I plan on making a more experimental film, and that's who it's kind of aimed for. It was important I tell a story that mattered to me and people like me, so that meant it was going to get seen by a relatively small audience. I wanted the people watching it to understand what it's like to grow up in the hellhole that is late stage Florida capitalism. And if that meant appealing to a very specific group of people, I didn't mind. I've had a worse brand in my life. I feel like I became a much better filmmaker after this project. I've always had big dreams, sure, but before this class, I could barely use a camera, and my iMovie skills extended to mostly clicking and dragging. I know a lot more now. Not only can I click and drag much faster, I know most of the submenus, and I can usually operate a camera without creating Keter-Callas anomaly in the fabric of space-time. I was just in my head assumed filmmaking was a pretty easy job, relatively speaking. You got the shot you wanted, you got the audio to match, you slapped them together, and you sold it to some suit from a company that could kill you if it really wanted to. I feel much more confident in my abilities now, though. Having made that first jump and having Mr. Engel there to make sure I didn't fall to my untimely death, metaphorically speaking, meant a lot to me. And these are skills I'll be using for a long time, I think, or maybe I hope. I don't really have anything too fancy. It comes from being a broke high schooler. I spent a lot of time learning the ins and outs of iMovie, as well as the intricacies of my phone's voice memo function and about 12 different editing software apps, none of which lasted long. I feel much better, though. I wouldn't say I've mastered anything, not by a long shot, but instead of having what was essentially an EMP constantly emanating from my body, I've reached an approximate knowledge of many things. Other than iMovie, I'm Steve Jobs on that now. I learned a lot about color theory. I had to, considering the levels of correction I was doing. Got really obsessive about that. Ate more than one orange for reference. The oranges were for comparison, to be clear. I wasn't just like chomping down on oranges. I probably owe Mr. Engel a lot for letting me use that fancy mic. I might have to turn this project in on time. Hopefully.